Hello, I'm Avanti, and I'm making this video to talk to you about my recent findings that might help you, and also to answer a very good question that I've recently been asked. So, let me tell you about my findings. A few weeks ago, my daughter and I were running our usual weekly course, Anchored in Grace, and on this particular occasion, the subject matter was about creating a safe place within ourselves that we could go to rest, to feel better, to ease our suffering. And when we were making the course, it felt different than any other one that we'd made. It felt like there was more. I had the feeling like I was holding the energy for an entire weekend workshop rather than just as it normally feels for the participants of this course. Anyway, I was curious about that, but we delivered it anyway. And then later that night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I've had a few of these kind of almost surreal experiences all in the middle of the night in the last few months. This was the third significant one. And as I woke up and I sat there, I experienced this extreme absence of fear. Now, it's not that I normally walk around thinking that I'm afraid. I don't suffer from anxiety particularly. Fear is not what I would call a big component of my life as far as I'm consciously aware. But with this absence of fear, it had that feeling that, if you've ever been in a situation where it's gone completely silent, like no birds singing, no trees rustling, just absolute silence. Well, it was kind of like that, but with fear, complete absence. And as I sat there kind of going, wow, in the middle of the night, pitch dark, my boyfriend's asleep in the bed, I started being shown things. And I started being shown our Earth, our planet, as this most beautiful, joyful, alive and vibrant place. It was as if, I don't know if I was being shown something from times gone by or or the future, or if this was just what Earth would naturally be like. But it was really extraordinary. It had such a feeling of joy about it. And then I saw this other element. It looked sort of like smoke or dust, something like that pervaded the planet, on top of the planet, not from within the planet, but on top of it. And I started to, first I was like, what's that? And I started to realise it was an energy of fear. And it was kind of insidious, as if it were dust that gets all over you and it gets in you and you breathe it in. And I realised that this energy of fear is basically what spoils our lives. Now, it doesn't show up as fear. Like I said, it's not that I walk around consciously feeling fearful, but it pervades our life in subtler ways. And it pervaded our parents' lives. It's been there for a long time. And it means that this energy of fear goes into us. And whilst we don't feel fear, what we do feel is not good enough. It's like that's the most common way that it seems to show up, in our not good enoughness. And it causes us to berate ourselves rather than enjoying ourselves. And when I say enjoying ourselves, I don't even mean enjoying our lives, enjoying that party, enjoying that dinner. I don't mean it like that. I mean like enjoying being who we are. It's as if what we're made of is form, matter, and our spirit inhabits this. This is our spirit's vehicle. It gets to see the sunshine. It gets to experience all sorts of different things, including pain, joy, and including fear. If you're being chased by a tiger, yes, you're going to feel fear. Or if you're crossing the road and someone beeps you and you get startled, you're going to feel fear. But this contracted way that we live our lives is actually not natural to humans or to Earth. So after that, I was like, wow, and I went back to sleep. And I started exploring this further. And what I see is that we are so harsh on ourselves. We make a little mistake. We drop a glass of water on the floor or something. And we're like, oh, I'm so stupid. And we get busy with cleaning it up. And it's really harsh how we are to ourselves. Fear doesn't need to control us from the outside. It's within us. And I'm not saying that feels like fear, but it doesn't feel like love, does it? So what I've discovered as the antidote to this is compassion. compassion for the self. And what that looks like is you spill something on the floor and you say, oh, whoops, oh, poor me. And I don't mean it like, poor me. It's more like, oh, don't worry, it's okay. Let's clean it up together. It's got a kindness to it. And we can use this all the time. Any moment when we would berate ourselves, if we were simply kind to ourselves in that moment, any time that we feel afraid or ashamed or lonely, if we could just be kind to ourselves, if we can acknowledge how we're feeling. I feel lonely. Oh, yeah, it's hard to feel lonely. Just like that. That's what begins to make the difference. You know, when we look around our world and we see all the wars and all the destruction that's going on, how is that ever going to end if we are at war within ourselves? If we're horrible to ourselves, that energy's got to go somewhere. It's like we act as if we stop at the edge of our skin. We don't. We have a vibration that goes out. What we feel goes out into the world. So if we really wanted to make the world a better place, literally the place to start is right here, with absolute kindness towards ourselves. And those words like kindness, compassion, forgiveness, they all sound a little bit weak, don't they? It's like our culture has taught us that words like ambition, doing, getting somewhere, that's a better thing to do. But it's hard. It can be hard. It's a harder energy. I don't mean hard as in difficult. I mean hard as in harsh. So I really, really want to advocate that you begin to practice this, like literally as a practice, self-compassion. Even if you do it for 10 minutes a day or an hour a day and build up, please start being kind to yourself. You know, we tend to think of self-love as being having a bubble bath, putting potions on ourselves. And I'm not saying that's not part of it, but to actually live from a place of self-love in every moment is what makes the difference. And it will make a difference to how we view other people as well. And now I want to answer a question that somebody's asked me, because I've been talking about this on the courses that I've been running. And someone said, well, all spiritual teachings, Eckhart Tolle, these kind of things, they all talk about distancing oneself from the pain and the suffering that lies within us, not being kind and compassionate to it. So how does that fit in? So the way that that fits in is that spirituality teaches us kind of that we are the nothing, but we are also the everything. And given that we've got this vehicle here, this thing, this human thing, it's not a mistake. It's really not a mistake. And if we treat it with unkindness, we exacerbate the fear in it. And if we treat it with kindness, kindness is a form of love. We bring love to it. And then we become aware of the love that we are. So it's not, the complete experience of spirituality is absolutely not to deny the human. We tend to think that there's something wrong with being human. Religion would have us believe that we have to be baptized or something like that in case we don't get into heaven. And it's to deny the humanity of us. And it's, to me, it feels like our human is the place that our spirit dwells. And to call upon our spirit is beautiful. But our spirit wants to enjoy our humanity. If you are a human, if your heart is beating, then there is a will to be here. Even for those of us that don't want to be here, that find life so difficult, if your heart is still beating, something still wants to be here, some aspect of you. And so being kind to what is here, being kind to what is, treating it with respect, treating it nicely. You know, the place to start all of this, all spiritual teachings tell us to be good to other people. And the reason for that is because we can be very self-centered and very self-absorbed as humans. And I'm not talking about identifying with our pain. It's not to say, I am pain. It's to be like, oh, I was in pain, or I'm in pain. And compassion melts things. Like, so many of us are traumatized, and the trauma gets locked away. And the only way we manage to reach it, truly reach it, is with compassion, tenderness. We've been treated so very harshly in our lives that the antidote to that is to be kind to ourselves. What's the alternative? To treat ourselves like shit and hope that we can become enlightened and then be disconnected from our humanness. You know, your humanness doesn't go away through enlightenment. We become more human in a sense. So that's my advice. That's what I've been with this month, actually. And so I hope it's useful for you. And let me add to the pot of spiritual teachings by including kindness. You know, the Dalai Lama literally says that kindness is his religion. You could do worse than make it yours. Lots of love.